This is the Insurance Law Podcast, brought to you by Best Recommended Insurance Attorneys.
Welcome to the Insurance Law Podcast, the broadcast about timely and important legal issues affecting the insurance industry. I'm John Zuba, Managing Editor of Best Recommended Insurance Attorneys. We're pleased to have with us today attorney Laura Grabouski from the law firm Tully Rinckey PLLC. The firm provides national services with offices located throughout Texas, New York, California, and Washington, D.C. Laura is a partner with the firm's Austin, Texas office. She focuses her practice on insurance coverage and bad faith litigation. Laura handles first and third-party coverage disputes involving CGL, business auto, commercial and residential property, and ERISA policies. She advises clients on significant decisions by the Texas Supreme Court and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit and new legislation affecting the insurance industry. She also counsels clients on risk avoidance strategies and best practices. And Laura, we're very pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you, John.
Today's discussion is on the impact of post-Hurricane Harvey on the state of Texas and the claims industry. Hurricane Harvey struck the Texas region in late August of 2017. And Laura, for our first question today, who are the major stakeholders in the post-Harvey claims process?
Well, you have, of course, all of the residents that were affected, and those are pretty concentrated in the greater Houston area, and as well as the Coastal Bend region, which is going to be the southeastern part of the state. And so those are the claimants or the residents who were affected. You also have FEMA, who has kind of a dual role in terms of FEMA assistance for those who were in the emergency area and who may not have insurance or may not cover everything. FEMA also administers the National Flood Insurance Program, which can include, and that's going to be your flood policies, and can include those that are written directly by FEMA, and also what's called the Write Your Own, which is private carriers who are writing those policies. You have TWIA, which is the acronym for the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, who provides wind insurance for certain designated counties along the Texas coast. And then you've got, of course, your private insurers who are the insurance companies for certain of the residents under homeowners policies, as well as some business policies and auto.
Laura, what data has been compiled to date concerning Hurricane Harvey claims?
Well, the Texas Department of Insurance, also known as TDI, has done a couple of reports and presentations to the Texas legislature, and the data that's compiled in that report is made up of what they call a data call that was made to private insurers, and so this is not going to include FEMA or the National Flood Insurance Program numbers, but does include the claims data for claims currently being processed and some that are already closed that arose after Hurricane Harvey. They've looked at lots of different data, including amounts paid, the number of claims, where those are regionally, and what the kind of damage is, and it kind of gives us an idea of the damage, of the economic impact, and kind of maybe looking forward to litigation.
What categories of insurance does the TDI include, typically?
So they look at property policies issued to homeowners, as well as those issued to businesses. They studied auto policies for people whose vehicles may have been damaged. They looked at policies issued by the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, or TWIA, and then they also looked at flood policies, again, only those written by private insurers.
How much has been paid out and how much is estimated?
Well, it's interesting. Just within the past few weeks, or a couple of months rather, TDI has updated their reports. They now say that, and this is data that was current as of the end of October of 2017. At that point, there had been 717,000 claims made, and insurers had, at that point, paid out approximately $7.7 billion.
How about by each claim?
Sure. About 46%, or $7.2 billion, had been paid out in flood insurance. About 19%, or $2.9 billion, is in commercial property insurance. 17%, or $2.7 billion, in auto claims, and 16%, or $2.5 billion, is in residential property payments.
Laura, in general, do property policies cover flood?
They generally do not, and so to have flood coverage, that you would need a separate flood policy.
How about wind?
Wind is going to generally be covered again under a typical or standard homeowners policy or a commercial property. There will be some coverage for wind, although the flooding is typically excluded.
Now, with regard to the National Flood Insurance Program, how many claims have been paid by the NFIP, and what are the payments to date?
Well, NFIP reported that 91,000 flood insurance claims were filed as a result of Hurricane Harvey, and $8.3 billion had been paid out on those claims so far.
Now, regarding specific litigation, in first-party coverage disputes, what are some likely coverage disputes?
Sure, and the litigation that ensued after Hurricane Ike, which was the last kind of major hurricane to affect Texas, and the costliest before Hurricane Harvey, that litigation kind of gives a bit of a preview, and it involved disputes over causation, over extent of damage, which we would expect to see in litigation post-Hurricane Harvey. There was also litigation over what's called an anti-concurrent cause exclusion, and that's where, in that particular case, you'd have a policy that excluded flood but provided wind coverage, but you got into issues of if it was caused by both wind and flooding. The Texas Supreme Court addressed that and held that would be excluded under that policy language. So we expect to see some anti-concurrent cause disputes, and then disputes over wind versus flooding, things of that nature.
Laura, in coverage disputes, where will suits be brought, when, and do insurers have a bad faith cause of action here?
Sure. Well, so if it's a flood claim, that is going to be brought in district court, in federal district court, or it would be removable there, and that is going to be governed exclusively by federal law. And so Texas courts have held that insureds do not have causes of action that may generally be available, such as bad faith or some of the statutory claims handling violations that may be brought in other types of claims. Those policies are governed by a 1 year from the denial is typically when you would need to file your lawsuit. In contrast, if there's going to be a suit under a property policy, homeowners or commercial, those could be brought in state or federal court. You have varying statutes of limitations, but it's pretty typical to see a 2-year limitations period in most policies, and a lot of the statutory claims and bad faith claims have a 2-year statute of limitations.
Laura, does the so-called Hale Bill apply here?
So the Hale Bill was passed in 2017 by the Texas legislature. It's now been codified and has become Chapter 542A of the Texas Insurance Code. And it is applicable to first-party property claims. It will not apply, again, to the National Flood Insurance Program policies. Again, that's an issue of federal law. It also doesn't apply to TWIA. But for other types of first-party property claims, Chapter 542A is going to apply to suits that are brought after the effective date, which was September 1 of 2017. And so, yes, arguably, potentially, it may apply to some of these lawsuits.
Now, for a final question, Laura, there was a recent Texas Supreme Court decision involving USAA Texas Lloyd's Company. Can you tell us a bit about that, and does it apply here as well?
Yes, that is the USAA Texas Lloyd's Company versus Menchaca, The original decision by the Texas Supreme Court was issued approximately a year ago. Just this past Friday, they largely affirmed their original holding on rehearing. They did offer more clarification. And Menchaca is kind of a wide summary of Texas insurance coverage litigation disputes, and the court painstakingly developed some rules that can be gleaned from a lot of its prior case law. And so, yes, Menchaca is expected to figure in Hurricane Harvey litigation, as well as other kind of insurance coverage disputes that are litigated in the state.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, John.
That was Laura Grabouski, partner with the Tully Rinckey PLLC law firm with national coverage with offices in Texas, New York, California, and Washington, D.C. And special thanks to today's producer, John Weber. And thank you all for joining us for the Insurance Law Podcast. To subscribe to this audio program, go to our webpage at www.com/claimsresource. If you have any suggestions for a future topic regarding an insurance law case or issue, please email us at lawpodcast@ambest.com. I'm John Zuba, and now this message.
Best Insurance Professionals and Claims Resource is the top website for locating qualified professionals and need-to-know insurance information for the claims market. Brought to you by AM Best, the world leader in insurance industry information. Visit ambest.com/claims resource.